Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. You ready for this one?
I'm ready, always.
Okay, good. Because this one's a real doozy. We're going back to the 90s. The Menendez brothers.
Oh, wow, yeah.
You know, the
Yeah.
trial, the headlines, all the jokes.
Right.
Well, get this. Lyle and Erik Menendez.
Yeah.
They might actually get out of prison.
It's wild. It really speaks to how much things have changed, you know?
I know.
True crime, our views on abuse, even how we see the justice system, it's all tied up in this case.
It's mind-blowing, honestly. So to really unpack all of this, we've got news articles, we've got excerpts from that Netflix documentary.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot, but trust me, it's a wild ride.
Oh.
But first, we got to rewind back to 1993. Back to the beginning.
Okay, so picture this. Early days of court TV. If it bleeds, it leads, you know. And the Menendez trial, one of the first to be televised, gavel to gavel. This real-life tragedy became a full-on media spectacle.
Yeah. Imagine, like, no social media. People glued to their TVs, hearing those dial-up modems screech as everyone tried to share their reactions. Yeah. Everyone had an opinion. And comedians, Sandra Bernhard, Saturday Night Live, they were all over it. It felt like the whole world was against those brothers.
Right, and their defense played a big part in that. They claimed they were abused, years of it, by their father, Jose Menendez. But back then, society wasn't ready to hear it. Spoiled rich kids killing for money, that was the story.
It's crazy how different things are now, right?
Totally.
True crime's huge, but the audience is different too. Millennials, Gen Z, they dissect these cases online. Whole communities dedicated to solving cold cases, fighting for justice. It's like interactive investigation now.
It's fascinating how much more involved people are. I think it reflects a deeper distrust we have now.
Oh, totally.
You know, institutions, the system. Think about the Central Park Five. 5 teenagers wrongly convicted. The West Memphis 3, same thing. Years of advocacy, new evidence. Finally, they're free. And with everything we see, police brutality on camera, it all adds to this skepticism, right?
Absolutely. It's like everyone has a voice now. And that brings us back to the Menendez brothers. In their 50s, they could actually get a second chance. LA's District Attorney George Gascon, he's recommending resentencing. He's saying there could have been abuse and that they've truly worked to rehabilitate themselves in prison.
It's a big move for a DA, especially in such a famous case. He's not ignoring the crime, but he's saying our understanding of justice, especially when abuse is involved, is totally different now than it was in the 90s.
Like, those abuse claims can't be ignored anymore. Back then, 2 young men, rich family, victims of sexual abuse, people just didn't want to believe it.
You're right. Attitudes have changed dramatically. #MeToo, survivors speaking out. There's a willingness now to believe survivors, to see how complex abuse is, no matter your gender, your background.
And that could be huge for the Menendez brothers.
It seems like a key part of Gascon's decision. It's not just the murder, it's the context, the abuse allegations, looking at all the factors. It's a much broader view of justice than we might have seen a few decades ago.
Makes you think, how many other cases are out there where the full story hasn't been told?
It's a good question.
Where justice might look different today.
Yeah, that's the power of cultural shifts, right? They make us re-examine not just individual cases, but the whole system.
And this case is everywhere now, right? Social media is exploding with discussions, people analyzing the evidence, even pushing for the brothers' release. It's like watching public opinion evolve in real time in a way that just wasn't possible in the 90s.
And that online engagement, it has real-world consequences. Prosecutors, judges, lawmakers, they see it. We've seen public pressure lead to cases being reopened, new evidence being considered, even changes in laws.
So, about that new evidence,
Yeah.
that letter from Erik, supposedly written before the killings, that feels like a game changer.
It definitely adds a whole other layer to the story. If it's real, if it backs up their abuse claims, it could be powerful for their defense. And it raises questions about the original investigation. Did they miss things? Did they dismiss things?
And then you've got Roy Rossello from Menudo coming forward with abuse allegations against Jose Menendez. That's a big deal.
It is. It gives more weight to what the brothers are saying. It suggests a pattern of abusive behavior. And it reminds us that abuse can happen even in places we think of as glamorous, like the entertainment industry.
It's disturbing, but it shows abuse doesn't discriminate.
You're right. It can happen anywhere, to anyone.
So we've got new evidence, a whole different cultural landscape. What happens next for the Menendez brothers?
Well, Gascon's recommendation is just that, a recommendation. Now it goes to a judge.
Okay.
They'll decide whether to have a new hearing, maybe reduce their sentences.
So even if the judge agrees, they're not automatically free.
Right. Even if they're resentenced, they still have to go through parole. The parole board decides if they can be released.
So there's still a lot up in the air.
Yeah, there are a lot of unknowns. But whatever happens, this story is about so much more than just them. It's about how cultural norms shift, how we see justice evolving, the power of storytelling to change how we understand the past.
It's like a case study in how we as a society deal with these really tough questions. What is justice? What happens when new information comes out years later?
You hit the nail on the head. It forces us to face some uncomfortable truths about our justice system, the impact of trauma, the possibility of redemption. The Menendez case, with all its twists and turns, it's become a lightning rod for these bigger conversations we need to have.
Yeah, it's heavy stuff, but it's impossible to look away. And it's not over yet. We'll definitely be keeping an eye on it, and we hope you will too.
Absolutely. Stay tuned. This deep dive's just getting started.
Okay,